Wait, 3? I thought I was about to play Final Fantasy 6. Well, the answer is that this is in fact 6. Release order got very funky back in the day because Square did not release every single Final Fantasy title outside of Japan until 7. And pause for a moment. Long ago, the War of the Magi reduced the world to a scorched wasteland, and magic simply ceased to exist. I'm not going to recite every line of dialogue and narration in the game, just the key lines. So, about that release order, people who are in the know will recognize this as the original Super Nintendo version of the game, or at least a release thereof. This is actually on the Super Nintendo Mini, released in 2017. There are a number of ways that you can play Final Fantasy VI at this point. There was the anthology release on the PS1, the GBA version, the one on iOS that was also the original PC version, and the Pixel Remaster, which, if I didn't have this version, I'd probably be playing the Pixel Remaster, but I think this still holds up as a good version of the game to play. I'm going to switch to post-commentary from here on out because the longer I try to do live commentary, the more likely it is I'm going to flub, and this is a game where it's very important that I get my commentary right first time. Anyway, we now join the perspective of this trio who are walking in what appear to be armoured mechs. Hard to believe an Esper's been found intact there, 1,000 years after the War of the Magi. We have not been told yet exactly what an Esper is, but can make an educated guess that it has something to do with magic. As for the mute woman, a very potent asset, one that, through questionable means, Vix and Wedge currently have under their control. Now, Vix and Wedge is supposed to be a reference to Star Wars, Biggs and Wedge, but the original translators must not have picked up on the reference. They translated Vix's name too literally. There will be other moments, however, where this original Ted Woolsey-led translation deserves high praise. Multiply the footage to ×3 speed here. This opening sequence, I could have left it out of the video, but I wanted to show off the Mode 7 graphics. Considering what they were working with at the time, this was actually an impressive cutscene. We can see the lights of the town in the distance now. Is the Esper still there? And if so, what relation does it have to the ancient War of the Magi? It's time to find out as I take control of the game for the first time. Now, if we try to leave the town at this point, Wedge will pull us up and effectively say, no, the Esper's inside, we have to retrieve it. I'm going to show additional scenes like that when I can, but for now, Imperial Magitech armor, not even Nash is safe anymore. Alright, first battle. This is the active time battle system that was used from Final Fantasies 4 to 9. Once a character's gauge is full, I can select an action for them, but I have to be fairly quick about it because the sooner I confirm my action, the sooner they can actually act. We have access to Magitech moves right now, and the female sorcerer has a few additional ones that I want to show off while I can. Confuser here was going to turn the guards against one another, but our regular attacks take him down in one hit, so I didn't have a chance to fully show that off. We end up in another battle here with a guard dog, and for this one I'm going to use Bioblast. Bioblast does about the same damage as the elemental beams, but it can hit multiple enemies, so I will be using it again a little bit later on. Anyway, after each fight we get experience points, gold, and sometimes items. Going right, however, doesn't really help us because we run into this situation where we can't quite fit the mechs through the gap, meaning the only option is to go back onto the main street where the Nash guards are going to try and stop us again. But you may have already noticed that whatever the guards or dogs throw at us is doing bugger all damage, whilst we are invariably doing one-hit KOs. About the only thing that can trouble us here is a death by 1,000 cuts, but that's where Heal Force comes in. which is essentially a free heal to full HP for whoever uses it. The only caveat being that you can only use it inside battle. Here I also try to use X-Fur with the Sorcerer, but it keeps missing. So I'm going to have to find another enemy to use that on, but we get through this battle too. If these enemies had more hit points, it would have been useful to remember that the guards are weak to poison and the Lobos weak to fire. As it stands though, about the most dangerous thing they can do to us is a pincer attack, which puts our initial ATB gauge low and ensures the enemy gets the first turn, among other things, but they still can't do much damage to us. Here's me finally getting X-Fur to work. It's an instant KO move. It's supposed to have a high success rate, I checked, but the fact it can be resisted at all means it's not a very effective move when pretty much anything else we do can one-hit KO the enemy as well. By the way, I've set my battle speed to fast for this playthrough, and people in the know may be aware that that only makes the enemy act faster, not yourself. So that makes the game harder, but I'm not doing a low level or other challenge runs, so this is my way of making things more interesting for myself and the viewer. New enemy type here, Vo Mammoth. They're bulkier than Lobos, still weak to fire, but Fire Beam cannot multi-target, so it's more effective for me to just Bioblast all 4 enemies at once here. This is also why it wouldn't have worked for the Nash guards to all attack at once, because then the woman would have just rounded them all up and hit them with a Bioblast. According to our source, the Frozen Esper was found in a new mineshaft. Maybe this one. Well, this is the only mineshaft that you could fit the Magitech armors through, so for your sake I hope the Esper is in there, because otherwise you're going to have to dismount and face the angry townsfolk without the protection of your overpowered gear. Here we get introduced to save points, and a reminder that unlike later games in the series, you have to use resources to heal at save points, typically at tents. Later on, however, we will find cheaper or free ways to heal up the party, so resources should never be a huge problem. Random encounters in this area, they're not too different functionally from what we've been facing so far. They all go down in one hit. Before this encounter, there was another corridor to the side that we would have been able to fit into had we not been in the mechs, but we are, so there's still only one way forward, and I'm going to speed things along until we reach the end of this next room. Only other thing to mention is that this second random encounter, we get a side attack, which is like a pincer attack, except you get the advantage instead of the enemy. I'll handle this. Stand back! Oh, how are you going to handle it, Vix? Oh, you're just going to ram your way through. And now we can continue. Or not. The Nash guards have managed to head us off once more, and they have one more trick up their sleeve. Okay, live commentary me is back for the boss battles, and for this first boss battle, we are going to get some advice from Vix and Wedge. Do you recall hearing about a monster that eats lightning and stores the energy in its shell? So yeah, we get a warning not to attack the shell. A much better translation than in Final Fantasy VII, where a similar boss you were told to attack while the tail is up. Now, I didn't show off Tech Missile. That was a deliberate strategy from me. It looks like we are going to see what happens if you accidentally attack into the shell after all, because I couldn't get this Tech Missile in time before it retreated. Yeah, you don't actually get KO'd, but I wanted to queue up Heal Force just in case. At this point, we just need to wait until the whelk comes back out of its shell, and now we can attack into it. Tech Missile, a very powerful move. A bit overkill on the enemies leading into this part, but okay. I was right to wait on that because it's retreated into its shell again, and now we just wait. Okay, here we go. You'll notice that the whelk slimed the girl during the last passage of turns. That's going to slow her down, and also we're going to get slowed up again. Thankfully, we're approaching the end of this fight, and in fact, one more tech missile has already done the trip. Or trick, I should say, and with that, I'll go back to post-commentary. We earned ourselves a potion for that. With the whelk vanquished and its handlers scattering to who knows where, there is nothing left to stop us from seeing what's in the next room. Will the Esper be here, or was this all a decoy to buy Nash more time? It appears as though it's the former. This is the Frozen Esper. Well, Vixen Wedge, you found what you were looking for, but how do you plan on using it? Hey, what's the matter? Do you know something we don't? Well, we know something that I'm not sure we're supposed to yet. The game briefly revealed that the Esper's name is Tritok, and Tritok doesn't seem to be too happy with us right now. Whoa, definitely not happy. Wedge has just disappeared without a trace. Vix is panicking, and now he's been sent to wherever Wedge got sent to. That leaves the girl alone with the Esper. The mission is a failure. The Esper itself proved to be its own greatest defense. But in spite of getting exploded a bunch of times, the girl has survived her encounter with Tritok. Let's now get out of bed and meet the man that retrieved her from the mines. She is still heavily affected by her ordeal, both physically and mentally, but the good news is that she is free from the nefarious means used to control her. Who is this woman exactly? Well, we don't know a lot about her yet, but we can say that her name is Terra. Impressive! I've never heard of anyone recovering this fast. To be fair, old man, do you encounter people who have been mentally enslaved by a pair of soldiers to fight often? No time to ponder on that though, we have a more pressing problem. The problem with being brainwashed is that being freed from your brainwashing doesn't undo the actions that you have taken. The Nash townsfolk know nothing of the slave crown, and many good men died in the recent assault, several of which by Terra's hand directly. Terra must escape this town, and thankfully the old man is sympathetic to her plight. But before we leave, let's take a look at inside this clock. It contains an elixir. An elixir is an item that fully restores one character's hit points and magic points in one go. Very potent, worth a saving for some of the more difficult bosses or dungeons. But for now, let's have a look at Terra's stats. She is a somewhat fragile spellcaster, magic her best category. And keep in mind that being able to cast magic at all is a pretty big deal in this world. But uh-oh, our escape route wasn't as discreet as hoped. And now Terra's only remaining chance is to enter the caves and somehow find a way to elude the chasing townsfolk. For this next bit, Terra's on her own and also doesn't have the Magitech armor to fall back on. Now, thankfully Terra still has enough hit points to weather these attacks and use the fight command to take out these Vaporites before too long. This, however, is not the ideal way to fight for most characters in the early game. If you use the row command to put your characters in the back row, you can halve the damage you take from physical attacks at the expense of halving the damage you do with the fight command. But most characters in the early game, including Terra, can be doing something in the back row other than fight. In Terra's case, it'll be casting spells. She has the fire spell, and elemental spells are particularly potent in this game because you can have them either single or multi-target the enemy. The latter is more useful to us right now because even though it halves the damage that each enemy takes, right now that's still enough to one-shot everything that we encounter. Another important thing to note is that I actually want to leave these treasure chests alone for now. If I was to loot them, they contain a phoenix down and sleeping bag. However, if I leave them alone, they will upgrade to better items later in the game. More valuable items than these that I can just buy from shops a little bit later on. Past the chest to the left is another route that we can simply ignore, because if we were to take it, it leads to what appears to be a secret door, except we can't actually open it right now, so we've just got to go straight on. I clear another set of vaporites and everything is looking fine, but the guards have already caught up, and now they are cornering Terra. She has nowhere to go, nowhere but down, down, down. Well, that at least gets her away from the guards for the moment, but that is another heavy knock for a girl still recovering from her encounter with an Esper. My sweet little magic user, wee-hee-hee! With this slave crown, I'll practically own you! Please let me know if you're okay with this style of voice for Kefka, because I have a feeling I'm going to be quoting a lot of his dialogue, and I don't want my voiceovers to be annoying. Wee-hee-hee! Good! Burn up everything! I bet you can't fry 50 soldiers in 3 minutes. We stand on the brink of a major breakthrough. In the days to come, we will witness a total revival of magic. Oh, you mean the thing that almost destroyed the world 1,000 years ago? The Emperor and his goons are also not being very subtle about the nature of who they are. Surely Terra deserves better than to be used by an empire like this.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
How goes the robbing and plundering trade? New character time. This is our adventurous male protagonist. His name is Locke, and he is a treasure hunter. Definitely not a thief, despite all evidence to the contrary. Huh, apparently the old man is a matchmaker too. What, is Locke having trouble settling down? Oh wait, Terra is a girl too. That makes a lot more sense. But Locke doesn't seem too keen on her, understandably so. But I really should take the plot more seriously. This old man wants both Nash and Terra to join the Returners, a resistance movement against the Empire. That girl wasn't responsible for her actions. Under that logic, Locke is willing to help the girl. Into the caves of Nash we go. The good news is that since there's only one path through the cave that Terra entered, Locke is able to find her. The bad news is that since there's only one path through the cave Terra entered, the Nash guards have also found her. A bunch of them and only one Locke. This could be bad. But what's this? Moogle Ex Machina? Yeah, I don't think it's ever fully explained why the Moogles help here, but the fact of the matter is that they will help, so now we have 12 people in total to defend Terra. Which means we'll be splitting up into 3 parties in a sort of tower defense-like mode. The first thing I want to do is move our 3 parties to the choke points of the room. This will prevent the enemy from reaching Terra without being intercepted. It would take too long to show off everyone's stats here, but I will show you Locke. He is a speed-based character. That means that when he takes an action, his ATB gauge will fill up significantly quicker. It is, however, going to be the party led by Kushu who gets the first battle here. The Vo Mammoths in this area use a powerful attack if allowed to have a turn, but because we got a preemptive strike in this first battle, we don't actually see it, and Kushu's party comes out unharmed. Locke is the next to fight, and when he gets his turn, you'll see he has the Steal command, but he's definitely not a thief, definitely a treasure hunter. Here's the Vo Mammoth attack though. Blizzard does moderate damage to the party, and because of this, it's important to not have a single party take too many fights, and also whichever party you use to fight the boss at the end, you want to avoid taking more than 1 or 2 fights with. After this battle, we get the message that we mastered a new dance. That is for Mog. That means he now has a unique ability like Lock and Terror, which implies that this isn't the last we're going to see of Mog. But for now, we just need to keep doing battles, and I'm saving Locke's party for the boss, so Kushu intercepts that, and we get through that battle no problem. Mog is going to take the next battle, and that will give me a chance to show off this new dance, Duskra Winkwam. These dances allow Mog to do powerful moves with the caveat that you can't control which move comes out each turn. This time I get Snare, an instant KO move. But anyway, the Moogles are going to take care of the rest of the regular enemies for us and clear the way for Locke to fight this boss. Last decision for me to make before we go there is whether or not I use the 3 tonics that will heal 50 hit points each. I'm going to use them because tonics, they're very cheap to buy later on. We don't actually need to save them at all. I think Locke being in the back row means he won't need full HP for this fight, hopefully. And yeah, let's take this on. I don't actually know if the more tactically sound strategy is to take out the Lobos or the Marshal first, but I'm going to go with the Lobos because it feels like the more sensible way to go about this. Oh, we got KO'd. That's okay, we should be able to finish the fight with just the 3. Yeah, see, Locke being in the back row saved him from being KO'd by that charge. We are not looking too good though. I gotta say, this Marshal is surprisingly strong for this early on in the game. But we should just be able to win the War of Attrition here. With Locke at critical HP and 2 Moogles down, we managed to get through. And so, Locke and the Moogles rescue Terra from her predicament. The old man advised that Locke should go to Figaro next. What awaits us there? Find out next time.